This isn't some woo-woo stuff.
No, yeah.
This is
it's tangible.
tangible. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You go, I'm never going to run again after that marathon.
Maybe if you're mentally healthy, I can move mountains.
A return on investment of 5 to 1, which is massive. Then implement it, right? Over time.
6 months without alcohol.
Articulate what's going on inside of you.
How's it going?
Yeah, good.
Yeah? Mask's off now. I'm all right there. Yeah. I want to first of all explain, Khalil is an expert in wellness, right? Now, I want to give the backstory as to how I met Khalil, first of all. It's definitely probably an overshare for me, but I think it's an essential part of the nature of this episode. First of all, you don't even know this story. You don't know this story. I've not even told you this. So you've been working here since August?
August, yeah.
Yeah. I've seen you walking around the office and that, and we spoke once, I think. But anyway, the day that you were on the corner, by the way, I had literally had one of the worst days well, I mean, this year has been terrible.
Oh, wow.
But this was like extra bad. It was also a day where I was most happy. And I was in a really good mood because I realized that no matter what, I was going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because this year has been an absolute battle for everybody. And I think we can all agree on that, right? So when I was walking down the hill and I was saying to myself, you're okay. Like it's all good. And I felt really pleased that I'd gotten to this place where I was able to say that despite having had a terrible day at work.
Yeah.
Like it was awful. And actually there's more to that story. So I was living abroad for 4 years. I came back and I was pretty miserable. And then lockdown happened. I had all my friends had moved away from Edinburgh.
Okay.
So I was in a pretty tough spot.
It's tough. You're alone.
Yeah, so that's another component as well. So I got to this place where I was like, I'm quite happy. I was content despite this shitty day that I'd had. And then you were on the corner and you said hello and I was like, oh shit. And turns out you're a cool guy. And I it's safe to say, I think we've become friends. So, and then even more relevant was the fact that you work in wellness and that's your expertise. So it was just like a really poignant moment. And I saved that for this because I hadn't told you that.
No way, I didn't know.
So
I'm glad to have been able to brighten a pretty pooey day.
Yeah, definitely. So that's the story from how I met Khalil. And I had to get him into an interview because wellness is so important. As I said earlier, like this is literally the worst year for most people, I reckon. Anxiety levels, depression levels, everything must be through the roof for a majority of people. Yeah,
it's not an easy year for sure.
You do wellness for businesses, basically, right? Workplaces. This is close to my heart for so many reasons because, through my own journey of mental health and fitness in general, I'm what you'd call a mental health advocate, or I'd call myself that, right? The other thing that really strikes me is that in the world, we've got entrepreneurship over here and business over here, but we've also got wellness on the other end. And they seem to be at odds with each other. Like the way that they're portrayed in the media are at polar ends of the spectrum.
Sometimes. Not always.
Okay.
Well, we'll get to that.
But we'll get. So I actually want to hear what's your perspective on, well, first of all, what is wellness? Let's start with that.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's so many ways in which you can look at what wellness or well-being is. We take an individualized approach anyway, so we support people to actually figure out what well-being or wellness is for them. But overall, kind of we break wellness and well-being down into 4 main areas. So we look at mental health, and we'll go into what that actually looks like around mental health. Then physical activity, sleep, and nutrition. 4 areas which are very interconnected, right? If you're looking at how you slept and you wake up and you're not feeling rested, that impacts your day, impacts your mood, your cravings, it impacts your likelihood of being physically active. If you're not necessarily feeling that motivated or energetic, you're not going to be physically active, which then could impact stress, anxiety, all of that. But there's so many different other areas that are coming up around well-being. Financial well-being is a really big thing at the moment. Digital well-being and people's relationship with their tech, for example,
like social media,
or work-life balance, work-life blend. Almost, I heard a saying today on a webinar, it's not working from home, it's living at work. Some people are feeling at home. And so it's how, like, that's a big aspect. But overall, our aim for well-being and the way we see it, if someone is well, I think they're happy, they're mentally and physically healthy, socially healthy. And I think that they feel like they can be productive and effective and perform well in whatever they do, you know, whether that's just hanging out with their friends or running a company.
It basically affects all parts of life then.
Yeah. But work, home, social, everything, family.
Yeah. Actually, the opposite question is, what is wellness not?
I guess that's a good point. So I think sometimes we can say well-being, and maybe even if you saw the title of this podcast, whatever it is, you know, people can think, oh, workplace well-being or well-being is, you know, people that are yoga gurus or fitness fanatics and very much kind of into it, and it's their lifestyle. You know, it's like an active, mentally healthy lifestyle. But actually, being physically active, for example, you know, can just mean that you walk 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day around your garden, or you're gardening, you know. And I think there's a story that I often tell in workshops. I was developing a well-being action plan and strategy for this accounting firm. Partner brought us in, where he's like, right, this is Khalil, he's going to come in and develop a well-being strategy for us, looking at these 4 areas, physical activity being one of those areas. And great, whatever, went through the first half of the day. Yeah, one of the staff members at lunch, she goes, before I was about to go out, she goes, Khalil, just come in. She looks really scared. She's like, oh my God. I'm like, what's going on? Yeah, how can I help? She's like, are you going to make us go to the gym at lunch? Right? She's like, and I think I tell that story because I think people can automatically think physical activity equals the gym, it equals running, it equals high intensity workouts, but it can genuinely mean gardening. It can mean walking up and down the stairs, doing 5 star jumps whilst making tea. I guess our approach is trying to help people to integrate small amounts of well-being aspects into their lives sustainably. And hopefully, you know, some is good, more is better, but get them to at least do that sum.
From 0 to 1. Basically.
Rather than 0 to 5 or 0 to 100.
Yeah. Hopefully they end up at 5 and 100 eventually, because they've taken that one step towards it and they've realized the benefits of it, right?
Or at least just sticking to 1 over time, rather than doing 3 for a month and then nothing for the rest of the year, which is far more effective. So yeah, I guess long story short, well-being, the way that we see it is that it's individual and allowing people to integrate small changes into their lives that are going to make them happier, healthier, more productive at work, more performing, more engaged. But yeah, it doesn't have to be a big lifestyle shift where you just run loads or just meditate all the time. You can live. And I guess that's kind of a nice segue, right? Like we're here, you know, drinking whiskey, a very nice whiskey, talking about well-being. And I think some people go, well, that seems a bit contradictory or kind of hypocritical, but actually, you know, I think you need to have balance. So we're enjoying a whiskey, and you know, I'm not. It's a Friday, end of the day, not working anymore, and it's nice to, you know, we're friends. It's nice to have a drink sometimes within moderation. Obviously, I'm not encouraging people to drink. I think obviously it's healthier if you don't, but you know,
it's a boundary.
It's a boundary.
Yeah, we set a boundary for the end of the day, and now we're relaxing for a little bit.
And that's nice. And I think if you can do that balanced in moderation, it's much more healthy, I think, than sometimes maybe overdoing it. And like with chocolate, for example, even as an example, some people go, Khalil, I've stopped eating chocolate, and they look really happy. And it's wonderful in a way, you know, if they're trying to look after their well-being and they're happy about kind of a milestone. But I think somebody that's happy about not eating chocolate will probably be someone who's maybe eaten too much chocolate for good health. And they enjoy it so much that they're kind of eating so much that they can't kind of stop. But I think if you're cutting out something like that you enjoy so much in your life,
that's a really good point.
That's one, really sad.
Yeah.
But also, how sustainable is that?
Yeah.
Maybe you can last a month, 2 months.
Going cold turkey on it.
When you start having chocolate again, if you do, you probably are going to have far more than you did before. Whereas if you can like manage how much chocolate you eat, how much whiskey you drink, how much, I don't know, sugar you have or whatever, as long as you can do that in a balanced way for good health. Again, it's that sustainability, that long-term impact of just living well over time is going to be far healthier and more effective than doing very short-term extreme diets, extreme fitness fads. Does that make sense?
No, it does. Absolutely. I mean, sustainability is a very important factor for the success of what you're doing, I guess, is what you're trying to say. I quit drinking for 6 months. I basically went teetotal, cold turkey, 6 months without alcohol. But I'm crazy in that I can do that quite easily. Like I have cold showers every morning, and I found that afterwards I still didn't drink that much. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Sustainability in a wellness program is imperative.
Totally. And to that point, actually, Stefan, I think just on that, I think sometimes is big, extreme, cold turkey for a bit can kickstart you. But I think sometimes if you're let's say you've gone for 6 months of not drinking, or you're training for a marathon, so you're running loads and loads and loads. Once you get to the end of that, I think it's important to have a plan after. What are you going to keep doing? Or, okay, I'm cutting out alcohol for 6 months, but if you know that you're going to start again in 6 months, what's your plan to make sure that you're doing that in a healthy way, rather than going, oh, great, I can drink again. I'm going to buy a really nice bottle of whiskey and drink it all in one go because I've missed this so much, and having that healthy relationship with it.
It's interesting. I don't know why, but what you just said reminded me of something that one of my buddies is doing around the topic of having a plan. If you're a sportsman, which I know you are, you've got a background in sports, and when you've been a professional sportsman or sportswoman, and when you stop doing it professionally and actively, then what do you do after that? And his focus is having a plan for that transition. Yeah, because that is actually a really tough transition, and I never even thought about that. But what you're saying is extremely in line with that, actually. Going from 0 to 100 and then back to what?
Back to what? Exactly. And you feel great for a bit. I'm never going to run again after that marathon. Great. Fine. If you're fed up with running and you need variation, but then maybe you're going to go swimming, or you're going to start cycling, or you're going to go to the gym, start a sport. But yeah, that athlete to retirement transition, or if you've been training to try and be pro and then you don't make it, it's a really big area that can actually, it's quite dark in a sense around the mental health issues that come from that, and identity, and you even see that in people that are retiring too, who have been very well. One, if you're an exec and you've done very well in your career and you go from that being your identity to then retiring, it can be tough. But also those that necessarily haven't been execs and still retire, go, what now? What do I do with my time? How do I do it?
As I was mentioning just before, that I feel like they're at two ends of the spectrum. You've got entrepreneurship and business over here, and then you've got wellness over here. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that, which is why you're smiling. And I want to understand what your perspective is on that. Like, where do they meet?
Sure.
And where do they not meet?
Absolutely. I guess that's what my whole company is for, right? Which is Rener Wellbeing. Check it out.
Yeah. No, we'll definitely get you to mention where people can find you at the end. So 100%.
But so I would say they're actually extraordinarily linked. And if you even look at a different example and look at sport, right? If any of you have seen did you watch the Chicago Bulls Netflix documentary?
No, I've heard it's really good though.
What's it called? The Last Dance, The Final Dance, something like that. But even back then, performance sport athletes, right? And if you think about entrepreneurs, they're essentially performance sport business people in a way, right? You're going for it. You're like at the top. You're going as hard as you can. And their coach really helped them to really live a life of balance and well-being, and integrated meditation into their thing. And Olympians also make sure that their lives are balanced and that they integrate well-being and they stick to their plans around health and well-being. But so with business, I think, and entrepreneurs, one thing, especially as an entrepreneur, if you're starting out by yourself or even a small team, you are your biggest asset, right? You are your biggest, human capital. Usually, even if you're working in tech or designing a machine that'll, do most of your work, you are still the person or the people driving your company. And without you, there's no company. You would look after your tech very well. You wouldn't just chuck your laptop if you're a coder right down the room, maybe frustrated if you're frustrated, but you'd look after your tech. 100%. And if you don't look after yourself, right, you can't work. And I think COVID's been an extremely apt example of that. If people aren't healthy, you can't work, can't do anything. The economy crashes. And so where well-being links is one, there's so much science around. If you're a happier, healthier individual, you work better. You're going to be more productive. you're going to be more engaged, you're probably going to be more effective. And actually, there's such clear evidence, even from a financial bottom line perspective, that when organizations and individuals spend time and even money on mental health initiatives, physical activity, nutrition initiatives, and around sleep, that they make a return on investment on that. And Deloitte, that a big consulting firm, they came out with a report earlier this year, pre-COVID, but they found organizations that invest in mental health initiatives positive return on investment across the board, and on average that's a return on investment of 5 to 1, which is massive. And then if you look at sport and physical activity, AXA PPP came out with, I think it's AXA PPP. Anyway, there's a report that came out showing that you get a return of up to £34 to £1 invested with physical activity in the workplace. And then we have a well-being strategy that we developed for a small startup. So it was about 13 staff at the time, a London-based tech startup looking at dementia technology.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So they did a lot of stuff in care homes. To help those with dementia to kind of improve their social interaction and help with dementia. We developed a top-down strategy looking at those 4 areas. The executive team and everyone had loads of buy-in, which really helped. So there's that top-down buy-in and bottom-up buy-in from their staff. But it led to happier staff, more productive staff. So the CEO said that presenteeism was cut out. So presenteeism was when people show up to work, but they're not really there, they're not productive.
Yep.
And that's where the biggest cost of a lack of well-being comes from.
That's huge, yeah.
And then less absence rates, and even from a quantitatively measurable output with their sales doubled in just 3 months after the strategy was implemented. So it led to return on investment of 250 to 1. So you can read about it on our website. But I mean, it's nuts, isn't it? Like 250 to 1 ROI.
Like,
you can't, it's a no-brainer. Even if you don't care about your health and happiness, this clear bottom line.
the funny thing is the world's so crazed and mad about productivity, right? And productivity hacks. And you can find a million blog posts about how you can be more productive. And all of them are promoting like getting more done in the day, right? And none of them are talking about wellness. So this is insane. This should be a revelation to anybody watching or listening to this. It speaks true to my heart, because I can attest that when I'm not taking care of myself, I'm not productive.
Right.
But when I am, I can move mountains. And I think that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that, if not everybody. So that's huge, 250 to 1.
And even on that point about getting more done, it's not necessarily, again, with productivity about getting more done and like using this to squeeze more out of your employees. It's working smarter rather than harder.
100%. Being clear-headed, being able to feel good about what you're doing and everything in between. There's just so many touch points for it, isn't there?
Right.
You know what? You've just given me an idea. We're currently doing our 2021 planning for Subbly. Change your plan, guys. Change your plan. We're not going to do any more investments apart from wellness. 250 to 1.
Do it.
I'm kidding. But no, in all seriousness, after our first conversation, I mentioned that we've been kind of penning the initial wellness policy and wellness program in Subbly, because we're a remote company. So yeah, I would love your input on that.
Sure.
In all seriousness.
Yeah. Friends and family discount.
Friends and family discount. Now we spoke about wellness. Now, can you share like some things that people can do that are like things that they could implement today?
Totally. Yeah. And I think I can give examples, one on as an individual, but also if you're an entrepreneur or have direct reports, how you can integrate this into your company culture too. But I think as an individual, like I said at the start, we take an individual approach to this. One of our workshops is develop your wellbeing action plan. And we might have 15 people, 40 people on a workshop. Usually there's about 40 different action plans that come out. So I think there's no kind of one size fits all approach to this, but I think one thing that can work if you're really struggling and time is a barrier, motivation is a barrier, it's getting darker outside early, COVID's here, is even just taking a 10-15 minute walk outside or spending time outside, but at least being physically active, even just 10 or 20 minutes can really help improve stress and anxiety levels. It helps you take a break. Also, if you can go outside as it's getting darker, it'll also help reduce things like seasonal affective disorder. So yeah, 10, 15, 20 minute walk, if anything, ideal at lunchtime. If you're starting to feel stressed and anxious, even a 1 or 2 minute breathing exercise. So someone on a call today that we had suggested just breathing in for 4 seconds and breathing out for 4 seconds. And she found that her thing was running, but when she doesn't have time to go out for a run, she just does that if she's starting to feel anxious and stressed, and that's really helped her. Mindfulness apps and guided mindful meditations. There's an external report that looked at Headspace, for example. And again, there are so many different apps out there to use. So I'm not just advocating Headspace, but I love what they do. Calm. I like Calm. Or Insight Timer, which is free. But they found that just 10 minutes of mindful meditation a day after 10 days can lead to 14% reduction in stress and anxiety.
That's crazy.
It's huge. If you think 14%, and after 30 days, I think it was something like 40%
But I wonder if you compared that number to how much time people spend on their phones looking at Instagram and stuff. Like if they check their screen time app right now, it'd probably be like 5 hours a day.
5 hours. Yeah, close to that. Yeah, in just 10 minutes. Or the amount of time that you spend thinking about being anxious. Right? Compared to actually doing something about it. Yeah, so mindfulness, breathing exercises, being active, and also sleeping. So I don't think people realize the power of sleep. Right, and actually sleeping 7 to 9 hours is minimum of good quality sleep a night.
Nine's a lot though, but
7 to 9.
Yeah, nine's a lot.
9's a lot. Some people actually need 9 minimum.
Wow.
Some people are fine with 7, and I know a lot of people think they're okay with 5 or 6. And scientifically proven, it like less than 1% of people scientifically can sleep 6 hours a night for good health.
Okay.
Some people can. There's like an enzyme in your brain that's released, but it's very rare, you know. And sometimes people are like, "Oh, if I ever share that stat, they're like, yeah, but I think I'm that person." You're more likely to get struck by lightning than to be that person.
That's actually wild. That's literally a fact.
Yeah, it is. Matthew Walker. He's got a great book. He's a sleep expert. Why We Sleep, or he has some stuff on TED where he looks at that. But it improves your memory, your mood. It improves your ability to be emotionally stable, also improves appearance, and as well it improves your immunity. So even just by, again, making these small but sustainable changes, so trying to, I know, just reduce screen time before bed by 10-15 minutes, have a sleep routine. So before you go to sleep, you know, we all have an alarm.
This is my Achilles heel
in the
talking
morning.
about right now.
Yeah, you do.
Like 100%, yeah. I'm terrible at just saying like to myself, like, go to bed, Stefan. Like I literally, that is actually the point I get to. I'm like, just go to bed, Stefan. Just go to bed.
Yeah, and I mean, I could go into sleep loads, but you probably have an alarm to wake up.
Many.
Yeah.
Because I don't get enough sleep.
But do you have an alarm to go to sleep? No.
I ignore it. Whenever I've set one, I ignore it. And I lack discipline in that area.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And I struggle too, right? I'm not perfect. I'm a well-being consultant. I still need support every day, and I need to stick to my action plan, or otherwise I feel it, and it doesn't happen naturally, right? I've still got to very consciously make sure that I'm diligent with it all. But yeah, in short, I don't know, was that 5 tips? I can give one more. Again, nutrition. Look at things in sustainability. So try to not ban any foods or food types. I would say just everything in moderation, eat mindfully, and try and go for sustainability. So things that you can keep for a long time rather than these big peaks and troughs. Fad diets are linked to higher mortality rates.
Wow.
So there you go, right? You might think it's good in the short term, but in the long term,
I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? Because you're putting a lot of pressure on your body when you're actually doing those fad diets. Is there anything that anybody should 100% avoid?
Well, look how much alcohol you're having, how much caffeine you're drinking, right?
Okay, yeah.
You know, caffeine by itself doesn't actually harm you, but look at if that's impacting your sleep. When is the last coffee that you're having? You know, caffeine has a 6-hour half-life. So if you have your last coffee at 3, at 9 o'clock, you've still got half of that caffeine in your body. So even if you're falling asleep at 9, 10, 11, you know, you still have that in your body, so it's impacting your quality of sleep, maybe not your duration but your quality. So look at stuff like that. I would say, rather than trying to avoid, I'd say more just let's encourage eating a full healthy diet, right? Balanced diet, looking at all your macronutrients, so having carbohydrates but healthy carbs, so high in fiber, you know, whole wheat rather than having white bread, for example, but you still need carbohydrates. Proteins, fats, you still need fat. Sometimes people demonize fat, but having you know, these healthy fats, as well as then looking at making sure you're drinking enough water every day. So 6 to 8 glasses of water.
Especially if you're drinking coffee, right?
Especially if you're drinking coffee. Yeah, it's a diuretic, and alcohol is diuretic. And as it's getting darker and colder, people don't drink as much water. In the summer, it's a bit easier to drink enough.
Let's summarize quickly then.
With physical activity, something's better than nothing. So even just a 10, 15, 20-minute walk at lunchtime, before work, after work, making sure that you're sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night, ideally. Work your way up if you're struggling. Making sure that you're having a balanced, healthy diet. It's 3. And then mindfulness exercises. So either just 1 minute breathing in for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, or listening to a guided meditation. Ideally 10 minutes a day if you can schedule that into your schedule. So yeah, I think,
and caffeine as well.
And caffeine, just looking at a cutoff point. If you're having a lot and you're struggling to fall asleep, that's something to look at. And obviously everything in moderation. So if you're having alcohol, that also impacts your sleep. So make sure, again, everything in moderation.
Now you've spoke about these 5 things, right? Now, how could one implement that in their company with their team?
Yeah.
Are there any strategies for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess our way of developing a strategy is 4 steps or 5 steps. Firstly, I would say if you're looking to support your team's well-being, is to 1, carry out an awareness workshop or internal communication piece around what well-being is. Because as we were speaking at the start, well-being is different for everybody, but also just highlighting that, we're Subbly and we're starting a well-being strategy for all of your employees to understand that it's not that you're going to make them have to go to the gym at lunch, or that they have to be yoga gurus, or that, they'll never be able to have cake in the office again, or cake or pizza. It's really around, hey, we're Subbly, or we're an organization, and we're wanting to enable you as staff to do what's needed for you as an individual to feel well and to work on that. Then step 2 is a needs analysis that we carry out. So again, a lot of companies, very well intentioned, will then go, great, well-being super important. You might hear this talking, shit, we really need to do this. And so put your finger out in the air and you go, let's get a half price gym membership. Let's sign up to an EAP, an employee persistence program, half price, let's send everyone fruit, which is great and well intentioned. But actually a really critical step, which sounds very obvious, but is often actually missed, is asking your staff what they need and what they want. So carrying out a survey, understand if you're doing anything already, what's working, what isn't maybe working so well. Is your half price gym membership only getting 5% engagement? Yeah. It's going to spend a lot of money, but can you reinvest that somewhere, and ask them what their needs are? And especially at the moment, there are some very tailored needs, COVID specific needs. So carry out a survey, interview people. Sometimes it's best to get an external provider in to do that. I mean, I'm not plugging Rener Wellbeing, but just anybody. If you can get somebody to come in and kind of do that, so you get as honest feedback as possible. Because sometimes people are scared. They go, oh God, if I say this, am I going to get fired? Is it going to come back to me? Totally. And especially with small companies, even if it's anonymous, you'll be able to go, oh, that's definitely Stefan. Right, that's so Stefan. Right?
That's the way he talks.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you can get an external person to come in and do that, and then develop a bespoke strategy off the back of that. So if you clearly can see that sleep is an issue, or people are struggling with their mental health and anxiety, you can make sure that you're putting on that support, if it's one-to-one support, or putting on awareness workshops. And that's where either internally you can develop that yourself, or get an external provider to do that. Then implement it, right, over time. But what's really important is that when you're doing that needs analysis, you'll benchmark where you are. So you can maybe look for key KPIs that you're wanting to look at, engagement maybe, or looking at, just even self-reported, how people rate their well-being, or rate their mental health, rate their support from their managers. And then at 6 months' time or a year's time, you can then measure that, or carry out that survey again, see where you are, what's working, what isn't, update your strategy and implementation. And obviously if you had a strategy pre-COVID, right, things are different. And so you need to make sure that it's flexible, it's not set in stone, it's a malleable thing. And if you then are growing, make sure that your onboarding includes some of that well-being aspect, because people need to be inducted into that culture of well-being and understand what everyone's talking about, what this is, and to encourage them to use that.
That's a really good point, actually. Yeah, because we're doing our hire plan for next year as well, and I didn't even think about that. So yeah, it's funny. I saw recently like Gary V have you heard of, Gary Vee?
Yeah.
Have you heard of 1:37 p.m.?
No.
So that's his kind of like media platform for guys basically our age. He'll get somebody in external to do like a presentation for, I think it was a specific number of minutes. Okay. It was like 15 minutes, cool. Right? At 1:37, which is the same as the name of that publication that he's got, right? And he explained why. So it's at 1:37 because for the 7 minutes from 7:30, people are going to be sitting doing nothing because they're actually going to be waiting for the start of that presentation, right?
Oh, nice.
It's really smart, this hack, cool. Right? Like and then it was 15 minutes. So I think it ended and gave them 8 minutes after it to the top of the hour. And it was like, wow, that's really smart because he's basically implementing a plan that causes people to just take a minute and just do nothing.
Love that. The gift of time.
Yeah. Just to kind of like have a moment.
That's really cool.
And then the 15 minutes, they don't have to, he actually said it himself. He's like, I don't care if they watch it or not. I just know that the way it's been structured, it gives half an hour carved into the day where they have to do nothing, basically.
That's really great. And I think with something like that, again, it's really important because some people might use those 7 minutes to answer the emails that they haven't looked at, right? And go through their inbox or kind of look at what they have next or prep for that. And so again, in an organization, if you're thinking of implementing that even within your company culture, it's really pushing and driving and almost giving that permission to do that. And if you can, as a CEO, as a leader or as a culture driver within an organization, is to really encourage that and attach those work benefits to it. Because if you're going, look, I care about your health and happiness, but also this is going to benefit your work, people go, oh wow, okay, really, I genuinely can. I'm actually allowed to do that. And then you have something like that set up so that they can. I think I really like that idea.
It's cool, isn't it?
Maybe I should start doing that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gary Vee.
Yeah.
Thanks, Stefan.
Thanks, Gaza.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think the future of wellness and business looks like?
It's hard to say. Because if you asked me this in January, I'd have a very different answer to where it is now. COVID's definitely extraordinarily boosted the profile and the need almost of mental health and well-being support within organizations, but also just within the world, right? People are realizing more and more that their well-being is important, mostly because I think a lot of people are struggling a lot for the first time or seeing others are struggling and don't know how to deal with it or do anything about it or support those that they see are struggling. It's new. It's unknown. There's a lot of unpredictability. Also, it's been difficult because, with 3 week lockdown, and then it extends and then it extends. And so you never know. And so it's like hard to put plans in place and upskill and whether to invest or not. And I think it's clear that this isn't going away anytime soon, even with this vaccine that's come out, and it's still not going to go like this. But I think the way in which people are working, and it's just the fact that we're all human and we still need well-being, COVID or not. So I think it's going to become a business. Hopefully, like almost like being a green, sustainable organization. I'm hoping that it's almost a necessity rather than a nice to have. I think it's going to go there. It still needs a lot of work. And I'm hoping that if COVID goes away or this stuff goes away, that still stays as a business priority. We'll see. I'll do my best to keep banging the drum and getting people to encourage themselves and also their staff to look after their well-being. But I think there's so much science behind it, Stefan, that it's so hard to ignore, that I think it's going to be hard to not do it. And
I think that's so important for business people to take heed of. That it is backed by science. This isn't some woo-woo stuff.
It's tangible.
Tangible, exactly.
You can feel it. You can see it financially by bank statements.
The cash flow at the end of the month. You were saying like the comparison between mental health and physical health. I want to go back to that because that one I am really passionate about. So
when we say physical health, we can see someone can be physically healthy. Let's say an Olympic athlete in their prime, we would assume are extremely, extremely healthy physically. One can then move along this continuum to less physically healthy here, right? You have a cold, one can have a flu, broken shoulder from playing rugby, right? And then more clinical issues. Now across this continuum, right, you can have a cold and you're aware, oh, I've got a cold. And I can tell you, oh, hey, Stefan, mate, how you doing? Yeah, good. I've got a bit of a cold. you can talk about it. Also, you know, action reaction. I have a cold, I'm gonna have more vitamin C. I might rest, I might wrap up warm. Same thing with a hurt shoulder. Okay, I might not play rugby for a bit. I might go get physio. I might have to tape it. I might have to get surgery, like whatever it is, but you're probably gonna do something about it. And you're aware that your shoulder's hurting. You're not just going, oh, my body hurts. I don't know. Fuck it, I'm just going to ignore it. You're like, no, my shoulder's hurting. So I'm going to do something about it. And if we even move this continuum along, and we look at prehab, so preventative measures, right? So there's cure, right? I have a cold, vitamin C, but then there's prevention. We spoke a little bit around nutrition, sleep, and physical activity, right? We do all of that. You don't only have fruit and vegetables in theory when you're sick. You try and eat it across the board to prevent you from getting sick and stay healthy. You don't only try and be physically active once you're ill, you try and do it all the time for all of those mental and physical health benefits. And the same thing with sleep in theory, right? You don't only sleep 7 to 9 hours a night to rest and recover, because you're ill. You try and do it constantly because you need to stay well.
Right, yeah.
And it's quite common knowledge. But when we look at mental health, sometimes the stigma is, and the stigma is really starting to decrease, which is wonderful, but it still needs a lot of work, is people's minds go, when you say mental health, straight to mental ill health, right? Head and hands, black and white, photo. Or sometimes people go, well, I don't have depression. I've never seen a therapist. So actually, I don't actually have mental health. But funnily enough, just like physical health, everyone has physical health. We all have mental health. It's possible to be mentally healthy. You're still on that mental health spectrum, and so you have mental health. But then if we look at the continuum again with mental health, one can feel stressed and anxious. And I think a lot of us is definitely feeling that. And if you look at the stats, even before COVID, a lot of people do have mental health issues, even if they're non-clinical. Even, you know, mild depression, and then more clinical issues as we move along the spectrum. And if we just look at the non-clinical issues for now, I think a lot of us, you know, especially those probably listening to this, are professionals working, right? So you go, oh, it's COVID, it's tough. I'm probably running a startup. My work's stressful, so obviously it's normal. All my friends are pretty stressed at the moment. I'm stressed. That's normal. Right,
so the tolerance is up here, basically. Right,
but also then you just kind of wake up and you're feeling a bit stressed, but that's normal. So I'm just going to deal with it. But if you did that with a cold, some people don't necessarily do something about it. But with stress and anxiety, more so, you don't actually look inward and go, what's stressing me out, or how am I feeling today? And I'm stressed, and then 2, you don't do something about it to cure that, right? You just go, it's normal. I'm just going to deal with it. I'll push it down, or I'll push through the day, and whatever. It's normal. But actually, there are so many things that you can do that we mentioned. Doing mindfulness activities, creative activities, right? Being physically active, it's very proven to help reduce stress and anxiety. Sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night, all can really help reduce the impact of stress and anxiety, as well as then if we move this continuum along, you can do a lot of preventative pieces to help improve your resilience, so your chance of bouncing back from stressful situations, but also your capacity to deal with stressful situations. And that's not saying that doing mindfulness and going for a run is going to stop COVID or stop your divorce or your dog being sick, but at least it'll help you deal with it in a better way, and not just go, well, it's normal. And I think people often don't do that. And especially then with your team, even though you're not a qualified psychologist, you can still help them with those non-clinical issues around stress and anxiety. So I think it's worth saying that.
I have a kind of an analogy that I think might be useful for viewers and listeners. That it's kind of like, the way I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like a pot of boiling water, right? Or water, and it's boiling, which is like when you're stressed and stuff. And you might have it boiling at the top, where it's like bubbles like simmering at the top, and then as soon as like something else is added in there, it just kind of starts to bubble over, right? And you're talking about this preventative approach, which is like, well, let's get that simmer down to like calm water, like that's cool, and then when something comes in the pot, you can handle it because it will just become a simmer. Then is that
okay, totally. And it's not saying keeping it cool is going to stop that potato coming in your boiling pot, but at least then once the potato comes in, you're not simmering over, or you're less likely to. I
mean, all problems are potatoes, right?
Bloody potatoes.
Bloody potatoes. Potatoes. I apologize in advance. It must be the whiskey.
Everything in moderation.
Yeah, everything in moderation. You're saying that it's on a continuum. You've got the mental health part and then also the physical health. But I see in the world that people always prioritize their physical health, believing that that leads to mental health. Now, this drives me insane because I see people out there and they're going, oh, if I get fit and healthy and I look good, then I will feel good. And that will solve my insert problems here that I feel about myself, like lack of self-love or whatever. Is that something that you try and educate as well? Like,
yeah, I mean, I just literally ran a workshop today
really?
on physical activity for good mental health. So it definitely is one of many ways in which you can help improve your mental health, but there are also other things that you can do to also continuously help your mental health. And I don't think it's the only thing. I'm very physically active.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Sorry. And what I mean to say is, like, people believe that their physical health is more important than mental health because they believe that is the cause and effect relationship for it. But actually, you exist in your mind. Therefore, why don't you prioritize your mental health over your physical health? It's like like you should be working out your brain just as much as you work out your body. And you know, maybe if you're mentally healthy, you might not feel like you need to work out to look good. You know, that's what I'm trying to say.
No, and I can see what you're saying. I would say they're both, like, I think they both exist interconnectedly. Okay. It's a vicious cycle. If you're not feeling good in your body, you're not exercising, it can be harder to then feel motivated to maybe meditate and look after your mental health. Right. But yet, if you're not mentally healthy, it can be harder for you to improve your physical health, and then vice versa. If you're more physically healthy and you feel better and you have more self-esteem and self-confidence, you're probably more likely to then feel more engaged and motivated to look after your mental health. But you shouldn't prioritize one over the other. I think they both live together. And I think in today's world, though, people's mental health is really taking a battering. And I think that's something that we need to focus on at the moment more so than ever, and become more aware that you have mental health as you do your physical health. And just by working out, just by looking after how you look, is not the be all and end all to your mental health. You also might need to look inwardly, do some mindfulness meditation, take stock of what's going on, speak to others, speak to your friends, speak to your family about it, articulate what's going on inside of you, give someone else the chance.
It's always scarier than you think it's going to be. Like, you know, like the idea of talking to someone can be terrifying versus like how it actually turns out when you do it.
Right. Yeah, people want to listen. People feel good to be asked for help.
It's not the potato that you think it is.
Yeah, exactly. Could be a bloody carrot. For all you know.
Could be a carrot. Oh, I hope this is funny for other people.
Yeah. So when we rewatch it and we're like,
oh God, what was I saying?
Potato analogy. I'm going to trademark this actually, after this. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Potatoes for good mental health.
Yeah. Let's wrap up because I could keep talking about this forever. And I know that you're a busy guy. So what is it you actually do, and like where can people find you? Like if they're interested in getting involved with Rener Wellness, like where and how?
Where and how? So one, what we do, so we kind of have three main services. So one is organizational wellbeing consulting. So we'll come in and help you develop a bespoke wellbeing strategy for your organization, big or small. We work with teams of 1, 2, 3 people, right the way through to big corporates. Like we've done workshops with Deloitte, big EY, employees from EY, etc. So no matter where you are in your wellbeing journey, we can help you do that. 2, we do wellbeing workshops and bespoke workshops around those 4 main areas of wellbeing: manager training, help people to develop their action plans. We do some one-to-one support, as well as kind of offshoots, some live workouts and mindful meditation work. Guided meditations. Where to find us? So the best place is to look at our website. So it's www.renerwellbeing, so RENER wellbeing.com. Also on LinkedIn. So if you want to find my personal one, it's Khalil Rener. So or we have our company page.
Cool. I'll make sure I put that in the show notes as well, that people can find you. Well, listen, Khalil, it's been amazing having you, and I feel like a lot of amazing stuff has come up that is actionable, and people hopefully will implement it. I really hope they do. And I hope they reach out as well, because that's what all of this is about. So I'm going to give you an elbow,
we can have a
to COVID-friendly elbow. There we go. Cheers. Nice. Thank you.
Cheers. And thanks for the amazing whiskey and having me on.
Yeah, of course.
It's been a pleasure.
Nice one. Well, keep rocking on, man.
Rock on!